What? Who are you supposed to be?
Mike pretended not to know me, exaggeratedly confused. Annoyed, I shot back. It's me, Emma, your sister. I came all this way to celebrate. But before I could finish, Mike poured the drink he was holding all over me.
You got married and left, so you're not family anymore.
Mom clapped her hands and chimed in.
We'll celebrate as a family, so get out, stranger.
Yeah, get lost, loser. You're in the way.
I sighed at Mike's words. Glancing at the woman standing behind them, I replied, Fine. I turned my back on the three of them. I still hadn't forgiven them for how they treated Bob when he came to introduce himself before our wedding. Honestly, I didn't even want to step foot in this house again. But I had made a promise to my dad. To keep that promise, I wanted to at least offer my congratulations for Mike's wedding. And yet, this was how I was treated. I'd had enough. I'll never forgive you. You'll face the consequences of everything you've done. I had been planning for this day for a long time, and now it was time to put that plan into action. Wiping the drink off my clothes with a handkerchief, I left my Prince house behind. My name is Emma, and I'm a 28-year-old office clerk working at a metal processing factory. In my personal life, I married my husband, Bob, 3 years ago. We don't have kids yet, but we're happily living together. Life is good now, but getting to this point was nothing short of a struggle. My mom has always treated me like a servant, and my younger brother, Mike, doesn't even seem to see me as part of the family. Even though I've been sending money home ever since I got my first job, neither of them has ever shown any gratitude. If only they would change how they treat me. It's been 10 years since I started working, so maybe it's time to make some changes myself. By the way, the reason I started sending money home was because of what my mom said to me when I got my first job.
Emma, hand over your bank book.
What? Why?
What do you mean, why? It's obvious. Your paycheck belongs to the household.
She glared at me with a terrifying expression. I couldn't help but take a step back. Sure, I'll contribute money to the household, but there's no need for me to hand over my bank book.
Are you talking back to me? Don't tell me you've forgotten everything I've done to raise you.
Her loud voice made me fall silent. It's true that she raised me, but this is a completely separate matter. If it's just about contributing money, I could transfer it to her account. I could even hand it over in cash. There's no benefit whatsoever in giving her my bank book.
Hurry up and hand it over.
If I give you my bank book, you'll spend my entire paycheck.
What are you talking about? We're struggling here. We've got Mike's tuition to cover too.
She launched into what sounded like a rant disguised as a lecture. That said, it's true that things were tough for us. My family runs a transportation company. By the way, my mom is the president. Back when I was in high school, though, my dad was the president. He was kind and well-loved by his employees, and he always prioritized them in his management style. In response to my dad's leadership, the employees worked hard with dedication. Thanks to that, our family was quite well off. But when I was in my second year of high school, my dad fell ill. The stress and overwork took their toll, and he passed away soon after. That's when my mom took over the business. My mom often showed up at the workplace to help my dad with his job. Because of that, the employees accepted her without hesitation. But this was the beginning of the downfall. My mom began running the company however she pleased, without considering the employees. She not only forced the employees to work overtime, but also cut their days off and salaries. At the same time, she flaunted her position as president. To make matters worse, She treated the employees like servants. Many of the angry employees quit, and the company's operations began to collapse rapidly. My mom panicked and tried to fix things, but she didn't have my dad's knack for management. No matter what she did, it was like trying to bail out water with a sieve. By the time a year had passed since my dad's death, the company was already in the red. When I was in my senior year of high school, I thought about going to college, but when I talked to my mom about it, she brushed me off.
Do you even understand the financial situation of our company?
Well,
We don't have the money to send you to college. Instead of thinking about that, go find a job.
In the end, I had no choice but to give up on going to college. So, I got a job at a local metal processing factory.
A metal processing factory? Does it pay well? It's not some company that's going to go bankrupt soon, is it?
My mom gave me a skeptical look, but the company was run by a relative on my dad's side of the family. They understood our family's situation well, so there was absolutely no issue. I explained all of this to my mom in detail. She frowned slightly and muttered.
Well, if that's the case.
She looked pretty dissatisfied, but seemed to accept it, at least on the surface. But just as I felt relieved, my mom demanded that I hand over my bank book. I'll contribute money to the household, but I can't give you my bank book.
Good grief. Then transfer the money to this account.
She slammed a bank book onto the table. It was for an account in her name.
$1,000 a month is enough. Transfer it.
$1,000? I'm a high school graduate with barely any take-home pay.
If you're living at home, pocket money should be plenty for you.
I couldn't think of anything to say back to that. But it's not like I chose to live at home because I wanted to. With my low salary as a high school graduate, living on my own from the start would have been tough. I'd planned to live on my own once I'd saved up enough money. That plan of mine was now completely scrapped. While I was mulling this over, my mom kept talking.
The company is in the red. My salary isn't much. And Mike, who's 4 years younger, is at an age where expenses are high. And he's the heir to the family business, so not sending him to college isn't an option. Now that you're an adult, how can you not help your family?
I was forced to listen to her go on and on about it. I couldn't help but sigh. Thinking it was pointless to argue any further, I said to her, "Fine. I'll do as you say."
That's what you should have said from the start.
She smirked triumphantly. And that was the moment my life of being exploited began. Come to think of it, I had been exploited for a long time. No, I should say I had been used whenever it was convenient. My mom cherished Mike dearly, but I was nothing more than a thing that was easy to use. Of course, I wasn't completely oblivious to how strange this was. I started to sense something was off around the time Mike was born. When it was just me, both my mom and dad doted on me endlessly. Since our family was well off, they often took me to amusement parks and other fun places. But the moment Mike was born, my mom's attitude toward me completely changed. Before, she would read picture books with me and play house together. But once Mike was born, she stopped even listening to what I had to say. I was neglected, and everything revolved around Mike. Feeling lonely, I often visited the office next door to our house to play with my dad and the employees. This continued even after I started elementary school. Naturally, I once asked my dad about my mom's change in behavior.
Mike is still little, so your mom is busy taking care of him and doesn't have much time.
So, when Mike gets older, will she go back to being the kind mom she used to be?
Yeah, I'm sure she will. You're the big sister, so you can handle it, right?
Of course, I nodded firmly. But even as Mike grew older, my mom didn't change. Even if I scored a perfect grade on a test, she wouldn't praise me at all. Even if I became a runner for a school sports event or won a prize in a competition, she still wouldn't acknowledge me.
I see. I guess I'm just not trying hard enough.
It goes without saying that this is what I believed. As a child, I worked tirelessly, desperate for my mom's approval. But as if to mock my efforts, my mom only ever praised Mike. When I became a teenager, I let my rebellious phase take over and asked my mom,
Is Mike really that important to you?
Of course he is. Mike is the heir to the family.
Then what about me?
When I asked, my mom snorted and sighed before replying.
You're a girl. You can't be the heir. As long as you marry into a wealthy family, that's all that matters.
What?
You're just a tool to get money. Women don't earn much anyway, so you'd better study hard, get into a good college, and find yourself a successful man.
So that's how it is.
I understood. To my mom, I was nothing more than a means to secure a comfortable retirement by marrying a rich man. Once I realized that, I stopped feeling anything toward her. To me, my mom became just another person I happened to live with. On the other hand, now that my mom knew I had figured her out, she became even colder toward me. However, her plans came to an abrupt end when my dad passed away. The company's finances worsened, and she could no longer afford to send me to college. That's when my mom gave up on marrying me off to a rich family and switched to a new plan, exploiting me financially. This became glaringly obvious when she demanded that I hand over my bank book. Looking back, one might think I should have stopped giving money to my family after I started working and just escaped from my parents' house. But I couldn't do that, because I had made a promise to my dad. I didn't feel anything for my mom, but my dad had always been kind to me. Thanks to him, I was able to get a job at the metal processing factory run by my relatives on his side of the family. To me, that job was a stepping stone for eventually escaping from my mom and brother. Breaking my promise to my dad wasn't an option. So, reluctantly, I started contributing money to the household. But the promise I made wasn't to keep giving money indefinitely. The deal was to support Mike until he became independent. In other words, once Mike started working, I could stop the financial support. I kept telling myself it was only temporary and continued giving money to my mom. Eventually, Mike became a high schooler and got accepted into college. But around that time, his attitude toward me started to change. He began blatantly mocking me and even occasionally asked me for money.
Emma, give me some cash. I've got a mixer party today.
Why don't you stop relying on others and get a part-time job?
What? I'm busy with college classes. Besides, working a part-time job is embarrassing.
There's nothing embarrassing about working a part-time job. Even when I said that, Mike wouldn't listen at all. Our conversations often turned into arguments, and during one of them, Mike threw this at me.
After all, you're just a high school graduate. You don't understand how hard college is. No wonder you can't get married.
Mike burst out laughing, clutching his stomach. When I glanced over, I saw Mom laughing right along with him. I'm single because of you guys. I made up my mind about something. The next day, after work, I invited someone over to the house.
Nice to meet you. I'm Bob, and I'm dating Emma with the intention of marrying her.
Marriage? With Emma?
Mom looked puzzled. Bob, who I had invited, nodded calmly. So, I'll be marrying Bob soon.
What are you talking about?
It's not up to you. I'm an adult, and I don't need your permission to get married. I said it with complete composure. Mom scowled in frustration. Right then, Mike walked in, yawning.
Hey, I'm starving. Wait, who are you?
Mike rudely asked as soon as he saw Bob. Bob, however, handled it calmly.
Hello, I'm dating Emma.
Oh, you're the bartender. Weren't you at the mixer yesterday?
Mike interrupted Bob. I instinctively tried to deny it. But then, Bob gently reached out his hand from beside me. When I stayed quiet, Mike smirked.
I knew it. Wait, are you saying you and Emma?
Mike pointed back and forth between us with a mocking grin. I glared at him, but he continued without noticing.
So, a high school graduate and some bottom-tier bartender? What a perfect match, right, Mom?
Now that you mention it, you're right.
Encouraged by Mike, Mom started laughing too. I was utterly embarrassed.
So, what's this about? Is this bottom-tier guy here to discuss marriage?
Yes, something like that.
You need to pay for us as a family. Can you even afford that with your bottom-tier job?
Mike sneered. I felt like shouting, but Bob gently restrained me, and I held back my anger. In the end, since I didn't argue back, Mike and Mom said whatever they pleased.
When are you paying that?
Don't come crying to us if you run out of money.
They kept throwing rude comments my way. It goes without saying that my face was burning with embarrassment. Later, I married Bob on my 25th birthday. At the same time, I stopped going back to my parents' house. I avoided visiting even for family events because I didn't want Bob anywhere near Mom or Mike. 3 years later, my boss, Chris, told me that Mike was getting married.
I got a wedding invitation, but didn't you hear anything about it?
Now that you mention it, he might have said something like that. I tried to play it off, but honestly, I couldn't hide my surprise. Still, if Mike is getting married, I should at least give him my congratulations. I contacted my family to let them know I'd visit on Sunday and went to the house alone. When I opened the door, I heard Mike's loud voice coming from the back of the house. Mike, Mom? Are you home? When I called out, Mike and Mom appeared. Behind them was a woman I didn't recognize. So, Mike, I heard you're getting married. Is this young lady your partner?
What? Who are you supposed to be?
Mike pretended not to know me, exaggeratedly confused. Annoyed, I shot back. It's me, Emma, your sister. I came all this way to celebrate. But before I could finish, Mike poured the drink he was holding all over me.
You got married and left, so you're not family anymore.
Mom clapped her hands and chimed in.
We'll celebrate as a family, so get out, stranger.
Yeah, get lost, loser. You're in the way.
I sighed at Mike's words. Glancing at the woman standing behind them, I replied, Fine. I turned my back on the three of them. I still hadn't forgiven them for how they treated Bob when he came to introduce himself before our wedding. Honestly, I didn't even want to step foot in this house again. But I had made a promise to my dad. To keep that promise, I wanted to at least offer my congratulations for Mike's wedding. And yet, this was how I was treated. I'd had enough. I'll never forgive you. You'll face the consequences of everything you've done. I had been planning for this day for a long time, and now it was time to put that plan into action. Wiping the drink off my clothes with a handkerchief, I left my parents' house behind. After walking a short distance, I called Bob. He came to pick me up. When Bob arrived in the car, he immediately handed me a towel.
I brought a towel and a change of clothes, just in case.
Thanks. but I don't think I need to change.
I see. Well, just use the towel then.
Bob opened the car door. I nodded lightly and got in. As we headed home, I told Bob about everything that had happened at my parents' house. Bob, usually calm and composed, listened with an uncharacteristically irritated expression. When I finished, Bob asked me a surprising question.
So, Emma, what kind of revenge are you planning?
What? Revenge? I never said anything like that.
You didn't say it, but it's written all over your face.
Bob always sees right through me and understands exactly how I feel. And instead of dismissing my thoughts outright, he listens to me. That's one of the things I love about him. After silently appreciating him for a moment, I told Bob about the plan I'd been thinking of for a long time. I'm planning to stop sending money to them, and I'm also considering selling the house. The house we're living in originally belonged to Bob's parents. However, when Bob's parents moved to a more convenient city, they gave it to us as a gift. Needless to say, it's not a new house, and it's showing its age in many areas. In fact, Bob's parents even suggested selling the house and using the money to help cover the cost of our new home. But I didn't want to live extravagantly right after getting married, so we decided to stay here instead. With that one comment from me, the plan to sell their house was scrapped, and instead we ended up living in it.
So why are you suddenly thinking of selling it now?
Here's what I think. If I stop sending them money, they'll probably show up at our house. If they make a scene in front of our place, it'll be a nuisance for the neighbors. So I figure it might be better to just move out entirely. Once they realize we've moved, they won't have a place to cause trouble. What do you think, Bob?
I think it's a good idea. And while we're at it, how about this?
Bob pulled over to the side of the road and whispered a plan into my ear. The content of his plan left me stunned. With my eyes wide open, I turned to him and asked, "What do you mean by that?"
After hearing what you went through, do you really think I'd just do nothing?
Apparently, after hearing from me that Mike was getting married, Bob had done some research on his own. Can we really pull that off?
Of course. Besides, I have a score to settle with them too.
Bob smirked. That's right. That day, Bob had been subjected to all kinds of remarks from Mike. It seemed he had been holding on to that frustration ever since. All right then, I'll leave that part to you. I'll handle what I need to do. And so, I stopped sending money to my parents' house. For the first month, there was no reaction at all. My mom probably hadn't noticed that I had stopped sending money. Well, she'll figure it out by the end of the month. I waited for that day to come. At the end of the month, just as I expected, my mom called me in a panic.
Hello, Emma. Where are you right now?
Me? I'm at home since it's my day off. I answered casually, playing dumb, and my mom's voice got a little louder.
What? I'm in front of your house right now, but it looks like it's for sale.
It seemed like she had shown up at the house we sold, just as I had anticipated. Suppressing the laughter bubbling up inside me, I continued teasing her. Maybe you've got the wrong address? I'm looking out the window right now, but I don't see anyone.
What? Looking out the window? Where are you?
I could hear her faint voice through the phone. I imagined her lowering the phone and looking around in confusion. Well, we can talk on the phone, so there's no need to see each other, is there?
Don't be ridiculous. This is serious.
My mom shouted loudly into the phone. Instinctively, I held the phone a little away from my ear. Then, while staring at the phone I had pulled back, I spoke to my mom with a faint smile. So, what do you need?
Oh, right. What did you do?
What do you mean? There were plenty of things that came to mind. So as I pretended to think, my mom spoke up.
We got a call demanding we pay rent. We own this house. What did you do?
Oh, that. It's simple. I just stopped sending you money, including the rent. I answered calmly. But it seemed my mom didn't quite understand.
What? You stopped sending money? Including the rent? What are you talking about?
You really didn't know, did you? That's because I decided to explain everything from the beginning. The story goes back to just before my dad passed away. At that time, my dad's company was thriving and his income was substantial. Yet, our household finances were in shambles. The reason was my mom's excessive spending on Mike. She enrolled him in tutoring programs and encouraged him to participate enthusiastically in club activities. That alone wouldn't have been a burden, but she also signed him up for various lessons. Of course, if Mike had actually benefited from these lessons, it might have been worth it. But he quickly got bored with each one. Each time, my mom would buy Mike all the necessary equipment, only for it to end up collecting dust in the storage room within a month. This cycle repeated over and over, putting increasing strain on our household finances. Frustrated, my dad approached me for advice, keeping it a secret from my mom.
Emma, I'm thinking of selling the house. Is that okay with you?
Selling the house? Why? That's when I finally learned the reality of our household finances. At the time, I had just started high school, and I had my own financial needs. But after understanding the situation, I couldn't say no. So, what will we do about the houses? Are we moving?
No, I'm thinking of doing a leaseback.
A leaseback is a system where you sell your home but continue living in it by paying rent. While it provides a lump sum of money, you lose ownership of the property. However, as long as you pay rent, you can continue living in the house, which isn't without its benefits. Afterward, my dad sold the house, and we continued living there while paying rent. Shortly before my dad passed away, he asked me to make sure the rent was paid. But I'm just a high school student. I don't have money.
It's okay. The money from selling the house is in this account.
He handed me a bank book in my name. The account contained an amount of money I'd never seen before.
Each month, transfer a portion of this money to this account in your mom's name.
I also received a bank book in my mom's name from my dad. That was the account used for withdrawing the rent payments. My dad entrusted this task to me because he believed my mom would spend the money recklessly if left in her hands. So, I've been paying the rent for the family house all this time.
What? Are you saying you hid Dad's inheritance?
Sorry to disappoint you, but no. I've already discussed this with a lawyer, and besides. I stopped speaking at that point and fell silent. Letting out a deep sigh, I heard my mom ask in a low voice.
Besides what? Anyway, give that money back right now.
I can't. There's not a single cent left.
What? Not a cent left?
My mom was stunned. The truth is, the money my dad left me is already gone. According to Dad's calculations, the money he set aside was enough to cover about 8 years of rent. And after 8 years had passed since Dad's death, the funds were completely depleted.
Then what have you been doing until now?
I've been paying it as part of my monthly transfers to you.
What? You have?
Yes. Besides the $1,000 I've been transferring to your account every month, I've also been covering the rent. As a result, my savings are nearly zero. But now I can finally save properly. Why? Because I've stopped all the transfers. With a laugh, I said to my mom. But thanks for calling me a stranger. It makes it easier for me to stop sending money without feeling guilty.
You're kidding, right? All of it?
No, I'm serious. I answered in a monotone voice, as if reading from a script. In that instant, my mom started yelling loudly.
Then what are we supposed to do? How are we going to pay the rent now?
Not my problem. Ask Mike to pay it, or better yet, you pay it yourself. You are the president, after all. I meant it sarcastically, but my mom didn't seem to take it that way.
That's impossible. Mike skips work all the time, and the company has been in the red for ages.
Well, that's not my concern. If that's true, I don't know how they've been getting by until now. While I was curious, one thing was certain. They were out of money. Suddenly, my mom's tone softened as she pleaded with me.
Emma, you've always been such a good girl. You wouldn't abandon your mom, right?
But I'm a stranger, remember? I don't owe you anything. I replied cheerfully, and in that instant, my mom's yelling grew even louder. But she was so worked up that I couldn't even make out what she was saying. Quietly, I ended the call. After that, my mom kept calling me repeatedly. But it was always about the same thing. Fed up, I finally blocked her number. Now it'll be quiet. We had already sold the houses we were living in, and I hadn't shared our new address with either my mom or Mike. There was no way my mom could come barging into our home now. Now, about Mike's number. I couldn't block his calls. The payback wasn't over yet. Still, he hasn't reached out at all. If Bob's proposed plan had worked, Mike should be calling soon. Well, he'll get in touch eventually. While I was thinking that, a week passed since my mom first contacted me. It was Sunday, and Bob and I were having breakfast when my phone rang. Hello?
Emma? I just got to the houses, but what's with this for sale sign?
Here we go again. I let out a deep sigh.
What's with that sigh? Just tell me where you are. Hurry up.
Mike's voice boomed through the phone. But I calmly replied, I'm at home right now.
What? I'm standing in front of the house. It's for sale, and the place is completely empty.
This sounds just like Mom's reaction. Thinking that, I continued the conversation. Well, we sold that house. We've just moved to a new place.
Where did you move to?
There's no need for me to tell you, is there? I replied coldly, but Mike didn't back down and shot back at me.
Tell me, because of you, I've lost both my job and my marriage.
At that moment, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. The loss of his job was probably the result of Bob's plan. However, the end of his engagement was undoubtedly his own fault. The woman who was at the house that day when I visited must have been Mike's partner. If that's the case, Mike's partner witnessed his cruel behavior firsthand. He treated his own sister like a stranger, poured a drink on her, and kicked her out. No woman would want to marry someone after seeing such a scene. At least, I certainly wouldn't. Most people would probably end up disliking him after something like that. The fact that he's blaming me instead of realizing this shows he's completely hopeless as a person. I'm embarrassed to call him my brother. I muttered quietly. Apparently, that remark hit a nerve as Mike raised his voice.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? This is all your fault. Admit it.
Sure, I set some of this up, but it's also because of your own actions. I responded in a calm, almost gentle tone, but Mike didn't take it to heart.
What do you mean, my actions? I work hard and take my job seriously.
And that attitude right there is the problem. Of course, he wouldn't realize it himself. Fine, I guess. It's a hassle, but I'll point out what's wrong with you. I prefaced my comment and then began speaking slowly. Let's start with Bob's plan. After I was kicked out of my parents' house, Bob said this to me while we were in the car.
What if my company stops outsourcing work to your family's trucking business?
By the way, the my company Bob mentioned wasn't the bar. He was referring to the management company that runs his family's restaurant franchise business. Bob works there as an employee. To be more specific, he also serves as an executive. Naturally, he visits the restaurants his company operates. Seeing this, Mike mistakenly assumed Bob was just one of the restaurant staff.
What? But he was helping out at the store.
They were short-staffed due to the shift schedule. But you went ahead and assumed he was just a worker and insulted him, calling him a lowly restaurant employee. Of course, Bob wasn't completely unbothered by it. He held back for my sake. However, the fact that he didn't deny it ended up working in our favor. It had to do with the money my mom demanded from Bob. Based on Bob's words, my mom also believed he was just a restaurant employee. Because of that, she didn't demand an exorbitant amount of money from him. If she had known Bob was the next CEO of the company, she might have demanded 10 times the amount. Well, in any case, I should thank you for that.
Wait, so he's
the next CEO of a restaurant franchise management company. I've been saying that from the start.
what? That's fraud.
Mike was stunned. By now, anyone with a sharp eye would have figured it out. After Bob and I started dating, he had his company outsource part of its work to my family's trucking business. It was thanks to that work that my family's trucking company managed to survive until now. For context, Bob and I started dating a year after I began working. At that time, my family's trucking company was on the brink of bankruptcy, but the work from Bob's company helped it recover. Without it, my mom's sloppy business practices would never have kept the company afloat. That's how much of a significant profit Bob's company's work brought to my family's trucking business. Basically, because Mike disrespected Bob, all that work from Bob's company is now gone. Got it?
No way. Wait, that wasn't what it looked like.
Mike began making excuses.
I was just upset, thinking I'd lose you to him. I didn't actually look down on him. Emma, let me talk to Bob.
Why?
You know why.
Even as Mike begged, I dismissed him coldly. No, after all, I don't owe you anything, right? You said I'm just a stranger to you.
What are you talking about? We're still
Strangers. That's what you called me, isn't it? When I cut Mike off, he went quiet. I could hear him muttering something under his breath. However, I pretended not to hear anything. Anyway, this is all your own fault. Even if the company goes bankrupt, it's not my problem. I thought that would finally make him learn his lesson, but his reaction was different.
Fine. I see how it is. Just you wait.
With those words, Mike angrily hung up. I turned to Bob, who had been quietly listening to the whole exchange.
What did he say at the end?
He said, "Just you wait."
I see. He doesn't know this address, but we should probably stay cautious.
Bob gave me a cautious warning. I nodded quietly. Since that day, Bob started driving me to and from places.
If I'm with you, it should feel a bit safer, right?
Yeah, I guess. It eased my worries somewhat, though not entirely. Carrying those lingering concerns, I returned to my daily routine. 2 weeks after Mike's call, while Bob and I were shopping at the supermarket, I suddenly got a call from Daniel, the real estate agent. He was the one who had handled the sale of our previous house. Maybe a new tenant had been found.
Hello, this is Daniel from the real estate office.
Thank you for calling. Have you found a buyer for the house?
No, that's not it.
Daniel hesitated before continuing. Just a short while ago, as Daniel was working as usual, a man suddenly appeared, and thinking he was a customer, Daniel approached him and started a conversation.
Welcome. Are you looking for a house?
When Daniel asked this, the man nodded. Apparently, he was interested in buying houses. Daniel showed him various properties, and the man declared that he wanted to purchase a unit and a luxury tower apartment. The man seemed relatively young, but there are plenty of young people with money these days. Without any suspicion, Daniel proceeded with the paperwork for the purchase.
Then, when it came to discussing payment, he said this: "My wife will pay."
I see. I had no choice but to answer that way, because I couldn't make sense of what he was saying. There's nothing strange about a wife covering the cost. It just means she earns more, right? As I was thinking this, Daniel continued.
But the name of the wife he gave was yours.
What? Mine? Right there in the supermarket, I let out a startled, somewhat embarrassing exclamation.
Emma, let's step outside for a moment.
Bob tugged on my sleeve. We quickly left the supermarket. After exiting, we moved to the car in the parking lot to continue the conversation. According to Daniel, the man who visited his office had used my name to try to purchase a luxury tower apartment. What's more, all the payments were to be made under my name. Naturally, Daniel considered the possibility of someone with the same name.
It doesn't matter who makes the payment, but please provide your wife's identification.
When Daniel said that, the man presented a copy of my driver's license to him.
He said he would provide the original later, but at that point, I thought it was suspicious.
That's fraud. I've never even considered buying a tower apartment.
I figured. It also doesn't align with what you told me before.
In fact, when we sold the house, we had told Daniel about our new place. It's an apartment in the suburbs. It's located on a scenic hilltop with decent accessibility. There's no reason for us to buy an expensive tower apartment. It's clearly a case of fraud. Please report this to the police.
Understood. But if the person involved is your family member...
Daniel's words made me stop in my tracks. Someone who could obtain a copy of my driver's license would have to be someone close to me. In other words, it was highly likely to be my family member. With that thought, Mike immediately came to mind. If it were Mike, I could imagine him committing fraud as an act of revenge against me, even if he knew it was illegal. It wouldn't even surprise me if my mom had helped him, especially regarding the copy of my driver's license. I can't help but think she was involved. Regardless, criminal activity cannot be overlooked. After considering the situation, I made up my mind. Report it to the police. Even if it's my family, I can't forgive criminal behavior. Even if Mike ended up being arrested, I wouldn't regret it. Everything that happened was a result of his own choices. The only thing I can do is make him and my mom reflect on their actions. The next day, Daniel contacted me to say the perpetrator had been caught. From what he told me, it was clear the culprits were my mom and Mike. In particular, the man believed to be Mike reportedly said this when apprehended by the police.
Emma told me to do it. I don't know anything about forged documents or anything like that.
Meanwhile, the woman, presumably my mom, tried to excuse herself by saying,
I'm just here on behalf of my daughter. Call Emma.
After making a scene at the real estate office, the two were taken away by the police. Later, the police contacted me, confirming that Mike and my mom had been arrested. Naturally, I was questioned about the situation, to which I replied, "I never asked them to purchase a tower apartment. Please punish them to the fullest extent of the law." Whether my statement was the deciding factor or not, the fact remained that they were charged with fraud and other offenses. Now they are awaiting trial, but their actions, such as forging documents, were egregious. In my opinion, I imagine they might receive a prison sentence without probation. Whatever the outcome, there's nothing I can do for them. After all, I am just a stranger to them now. The only solace is that their fraud was stopped before it could cause any damage. In contrast to my mom and Mike, I'm experiencing a bit of happiness in my daily life. I'm really enjoying our newly moved into home, and work has been going smoothly.
By the way, my parents were asking if we're planning to have kids soon.
Kids. Now that everything's settled down, maybe it's time to start thinking about it. Despite what I said, deep down, I still feel a sense of guilt or something similar, so it doesn't feel entirely settled. Incidentally, my family's trucking company went bankrupt after that incident. However, the employees have started a new company. The new company is already getting work from Bob's company, and my company also plans to send them work in the future. Since I'll likely be involved, I intend to fully support their efforts going forward.